Now, from your local news leader, this is 6 News.
Breaking news at this hour. A man is in custody after fire officials say he intentionally smashed into a Lansing firefighter with his pickup truck and then sped off from the scene. It happened right here at the intersection of Jolly and Cedar, and that's where we find our Alexandra Illich. She was on the scene just minutes after that crash. What's happening right now there, Alexandra?
Jane, it happened just before 4 o'clock this afternoon, and as you can see here, the scene is still very active. Lots of police and fire are investigating. Here's what we know now. Several Lansing firefighters were out here on Jolly and Cedar collecting donations for the department's Fill the Boot campaign when there was some sort of traffic altercation between a man driving a pickup truck and the firefighter. We're told the suspect in the truck passed the firefighter and then circled back around and deliberately hit the firefighter and then took off.
We're following developing news for you tonight. A Lansing firefighter is fighting for his life after being hit by a truck just hours ago.
And police say the driver did it intentionally. Now, the crash happened around 3:45 at the corner of Jolly and Cedar Street. Alexander Illich joins us now live from the scene tonight. What can you tell us, Allie?
Jane and Sherry, it happened just before 4 o'clock this afternoon, and as you can see here, the police are still on scene investigating. Here's what we know. Several Lansing firefighters were out here on Jolly and Cedar collecting donations for the Muscular Dystrophy Association's annual Fill the Boot campaign when there was some sort of argument between a man driving a pickup truck and one of the firefighters. We're told the suspect in the truck passed the firefighter and then circled back around and deliberately hit the firefighter and then took off.
It's hard to put Dennis in words. He was probably the most fantastic human being I've ever met.
The Lansing Fire Department is mourning the loss of one of its own tonight. 35-year-old Dennis Rodeman was hit by a truck and killed while collecting money for charity. It's our top story tonight at 11. Thanks for joining us. Police say the driver did it intentionally. Now, the crash happened around 3:45 today at the busy intersection of Jolly and Cedar. That's in South Lansing. Rodeman was collecting money for the Fill the Boot campaign, a fundraiser for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, when there was some sort of argument between the man driving a pickup truck and Rodeman. Now, officials say the suspect in the truck passed Rodeman and then circled back around and deliberately hit him. The driver then took off. Police then chased the truck to the 3000 block of Lawdor Road. The driver was arrested there. Now, our cameras were on the scene minutes after that happened. This is what we saw there, a white truck with heavy front end damage surrounded by police SUVs. And as you can see here, the hood is crushed in, the front window smashed. The firefighter was rushed to Sparrow Hospital, where he later died. Fire officials held a news conference just a few hours ago. Our Alexandra Illich was there. She's been following this story from the very beginning. She joins us now live in studio with the very latest. What can you tell us tonight, Allie?
Well, Sherry, tonight, Lansing Mayor Virg Bernero, the Lansing Fire Chief, and Lansing Police Chief Mike Yankowski gathered together inside the fire station to update us on the investigation. We've learned that Dennis Rodeman had worked for the Lansing Fire Department for 7 years. He had served in the U.S. Marine Corps. He and his wife were married just about 2 months and expecting their first child.
The Lansing Fire Department has suffered a tremendous loss this evening.
Members of the Lansing Fire and Police Departments stand with heavy hearts, mourning the loss of their fellow co-worker, family member, and friend.
I don't understand what he ever did to anybody. He would give anybody, including that guy, the shirt off his back.
Dennis Rodeman was a Marine, a Lansing firefighter, a husband, and was soon to be a father. But in an instant, his life was cut short while he was helping to raise money for a charity. Tonight, we can finally show you the face of the man who police say was behind the wheel and targeted Rodeman in a fit of rage. This is 22-year-old Grant Taylor. He was in court less than 2 hours ago to be formally charged in connection to the firefighter's death. And we go now live to our Alexandra Illich. She was in the courtroom when the judge announced the charges against Taylor. Nellie, what can you tell us about this?
Jane, 22-year-old Grant Taylor was arraigned by video this afternoon. He stood with little emotion in front of Magistrate Laura Milmore this afternoon as she read the charges against him. Now, Taylor is charged with open murder, failing to stop at the scene of an accident when at fault, causing death, and 2 counts of fleeing and eluding in the 3rd degree.
Well, I thank you. The entire 6 News team has been devoted to learning more about this story and getting reaction to the death. We also have found an outpouring of support that is still growing from all over mid-Michigan. And before we go to that, here's a quick recap of what Lansing police say happened Wednesday afternoon. Rodeman was killed in the line of duty while he was collecting donations, all part of a fundraiser called Fill the Boot. Well, even though Dennis Rodeman lived in Perry, he grew up in Vermontville, which is on the western side of Eaton County. And our Jenna Hilgenbrink went there today and talked with family and neighbors to learn more about him.
From serving his country as a Marine to serving his hometown in the Vermontville Fire Department, Dennis Rodeman was known as a hero, and his family wants him to be remembered as just that.
He loved the Marines. He loved his Marines. He always did, still does. They were brothers to him, the same as his firefighter buddies.
Dennis started his career as a firefighter here at the Vermontville Fire Department.
City of Lansing honored Dennis Rodeman today, along with those lost and affected by the September 11th terrorist attacks 14 years ago. And today, we continue to mourn and remember as a country and as a community. The observance this morning in Lansing included a march with city officials, firefighters, police officers, and military personnel.
And while the Lansing Fire Department works to keep us safe, they're also working through the loss of one of their own.
Now, 6 News is keeping a close eye on the scheduled court date for the man charged with intentionally running down Lansing firefighter Dennis Rodeman with his truck last week. And that man's name, Grant Taylor. And we now know that he is set to be in court again for a pretrial conference this Friday. That, of course, is the victim on the screen. But since the incident Wednesday, there has been an outpouring of support for Rodeman's family.
That's right. This is a look at where the GoFundMe page set up for Rodeman's family stands right now. Now, the original goal was $50,000. That was easily hit. As you can see tonight, more than $128,000 has been raised since Thursday.
Thank you very much for tuning in and watching. I'm Shane Aldrich.
And I'm Sherry Jones. 35-year-old Lansing firefighter was killed in the line of duty while he was collecting donations as part of a fundraiser called Fill the Boot last Wednesday. Police say Grant Taylor drove by Rodeman on Jolly Road and Cedar Street in Lansing. There was an exchange of words between the two, and then officials say Taylor drove down the road, turned around, and intentionally smashed into Rodeman with his truck. Taylor now faces multiple charges, including murder. Family and friends of Dennis Rodeman are gathered right now in Lansing to pay their respects.
That's right. Our Alexandra Illich is right outside of the funeral home where that visitation is going on. And Allie, what have you been seeing throughout this afternoon and now this evening?
Jane and Sherry, lots of family, friends, and workers from Sparrow Hospital were seen outside the funeral home this evening to pay their respects to fallen Lansing firefighter Dennis Rodeman. If you take a look, the most noticeable group of people, though, a lot of men and women in uniform. Lansing fire and EMS officials from Lansing and surrounding areas have come here this evening to show their support. Lansing Fire Public Information Officer Steve Babcock says fire officials from across the metro area have been called in to take calls and respond to emergencies at the Lansing fire stations so that all firefighters are able to attend all of Rodeman's funeral services today and tomorrow. His visitation goes until 9 o'clock this evening, and his funeral is scheduled for 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Breslin Center. If you are planning to attend, officials ask that you get there a half hour early. There is expected to be upwards of 15,000 people in attendance, something Babcock says really demonstrates the overwhelming support the community has shown so far.
This is all about love. Love to your fellow man, love to Dennis and his family, and support. And it truly makes a difference.
Thank you, Allie. Well, as you just heard, officials do expect thousands of people to be in East Lansing for tomorrow's funeral service.
And after the funeral service, the procession will head to Charlotte. The route from the Breslin Center to West Carmel Cemetery is just over 32 miles. It starts with heading up Birch Road to Kalamazoo Street, then turning onto South Harrison Road and making a boulevard turn to head onto Michigan Avenue. The procession then continues on Michigan Avenue, heading west all the way down Grand River, passing over the river before heading back down Capitol Avenue after taking a short left turn onto Shiawassee Street. The route merges onto 496 near Pine Street. From then, it heads down I-69 south, with the procession getting off at exit 61 for Charlotte. Then Lawrence Highway takes the cars to South Anger Road, where the West Carmel Cemetery is located. Now, officials say you should expect significant travel delays along all the roads listed on this route.
Our 6 News team had teams out there to cover it for you. Jenna Hilgenbrink just got back from a small cemetery right outside of Charlotte. Justin Cree was outside the Breslin Center, where he talked to some of the people from around the country who came out to this funeral. But we start with Krista Lamondola, who was inside the Breslin Center and who takes us to the ceremony.
His last alarm, he's going home. Welcome home, Rhodey. Welcome home.
A final call with no answer. Thousands in uniform promised to answer that call in Dennis Rodeman's memory.
Krista, well, while most of the funeral was made up of speakers paying tribute and sharing memories, there was another part of this ceremony today.
It's called The Last Call. And as the name suggests, it is a final tribute. The last time their name goes out over the police and fire radio frequencies.
It is with our deepest regret to announce the passing of firefighter EMT Dennis Rodeman. In recognition of his years of service to Vermontville Fire Department,
Our Justin Cree found out why so many people just had to be there.
Dozens of fire trucks line the street around the Breslin Center as these brave men and women say goodbye to one of their own. Tears fell and fire trucks were draped in black as the funeral for a fellow brother, Dennis Rodeman, came to a close.
You don't see folks like us carrying signs, protesting and screeching obscenities when we do line up and march. We march for someone who is not able to march with us.
Now, once the ceremony ended, the casket made its way through the streets of Lansing one last time.
And it was an opportunity for those who couldn't make it to the ceremony to pay their last respects. The procession made its way down Michigan Avenue, and as you can see from our Capitol cam just how long that procession was, it then made a quick turn off of Michigan Avenue to pass by Fire Station 1 before getting on the highway and heading towards Eaton County. People lined the streets and sidewalks to catch a glimpse of the procession and to say their own final thank you.
I have friends and family that were both Marines and firefighters, so I just wanted to be here to pay my respects to the family in whatever way I could.
Family, friends, fellow firefighters, and military personnel were at Dennis Rodeman's burial this afternoon, all to remember and say goodbye to the man they knew.
He was a true humanitarian. He cared deeply about children, his nieces and nephews, and all children, and he was humble.
Family members reflected on the role he played in their lives. He was a son, brother, uncle, and soon-to-be father.
He was the strength of the family. I mean, without Dennis, I don't know. Sometimes the family didn't go on.
The family is trying to find ways to deal with this tragedy, but they'll do so with the support of their community, who were there with them until the day's end.
We're all coping. And I think that the major thing that's guided us all through is Dennis's courage, his strengths. Everything that he set an example for is what carries us.
In Lansing, Jenna Hilgenbrink, 6 News.